All right, it's time to talk a little fashion this week as we continue our conversation about some of the styles and the trends coming out of New York Fashion Week. Joining me right now, stylist and author Heather Neuberger. Hey, Heather.
Hi, how's it going, Natalie?
It is going well. We're starting with something a little different here. We're talking about fabrics that designers are leaning towards.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting this season. After we talked about Resort 22, sort of seeing a lot of knit tops that are really reminiscent of the 70s. Now suddenly we're seeing knits everywhere. It's knit dresses, it's knit skirts, it's like knit pullovers. All these knits that you would never associate for spring are really coming back in full force.
So what about colors? We know we went over fabrics, but this is all for spring 2022. So people tend to think bright, bold. Is that the case?
You know, you would think it'd be super bright and bold, but actually most of the designers I'm seeing are playing with sort of buttery creams. They're really leaning into sort of shiny or textural blacks. Though if we are seeing a color, we're seeing a lot of these sort of more optimistic early 2000 colors. So we're seeing rubies, we're seeing cyans. We're also seeing what can only be described as sort of a Nickelodeon orange, which is very similar to that lime green that we're also seeing on the runways, which is a little different than slime green, more of those neons that were playing out a couple years ago.
We do use a lot of that orange here on Current as well. You can kind of see it as the colors go. But what about when it comes to trends? What should we all kind of be keeping a lookout for?
Well, I think the first one that's super fun is there's really this interesting sort of play on 1920s fashion that's happening right now when it comes to fringe. Fringe is everywhere. It's all over the runways right now. People are putting it on skirts, on dresses, on tops, you know, even giving it over to the guys too. And what I think is great is there's a sort of this nod happening, but it's really staying in this wonderful space of inclusivity in terms of different fabrics that are either knitwear or they're, you know, more or less classy than they used to be. It's not all for going out anymore. It's not that just fringe is, you know, a sexy thing to wear on a date. Now it's for just going casually to a bar with friends. We're also seeing some interesting things going on when it comes to cutouts. You know, cutouts is sort of a thing that we've been seeing a lot for spring, but at the same time, those cutouts are now sort of being reimagined again in a bit more of a classier space. I think we've seen them being taken down by some of our favorite fast fashion brands that are playing with that space, but now we're seeing them kind of elevated into a more glamorous look. Last but not least, I think one of the trends that we're also seeing, again, is this knitwear thing. I'm certainly personally shocked by it just because it's spring, it's summer, it's hot outside. Why would you want to wear knits? But really embracing the idea of knitwear isn't just this thinly put together sweater material, but actually giving us these holes and interesting netting that is also considered knitwear as well.
So we went from fabric to brands. I mean, from fabrics to listen to me, fabrics to trends to brands. Now, what are they using? A lot of intergenerational models we're seeing on the runway as well. Can you explain to the people out there what that means and why something like that is so significant?
I think it's super cool. It really fits with my whole fashion ethos that clothing is for everyone, everywhere, all bodies, all shapes, all sizes, all humans. So great brands such as Rachel Comey have really kind of taken the lead on this, embracing all different, you know, sizes, genders, spaces, and especially ages. So the more that we're able to see different clothing shapes on different ages of women and also men, the more we're able to sort of imagine ourselves in them. So it's this really great place to take this inclusive fashion experience and actually, you know, engage with it on a more sentimental level. Other brands like Rosetta Getty are also sort of bringing it into the mix. And even we're seeing Coach using different models of different sizes, which Coach 1941 is 1000% been my favorite collection ever since Stuart Beavers joined.
Wow, and all across the board, fashion, of course, we say it here almost every week, is for everyone. So we have to talk about the designers too. They're incorporating genderless fashion into the looks. We talked about some of that last week. We have seen any more of that on the runway?
We've seen a ton more of it on the runway. And what's so interesting is it's from big brands. Again, I want to bring Coach back in here because it's some of these more heritage companies that are actually embracing genderless fashion, which is saying, you know, it's not just for these more emerging spaces, it's for everyone. So you're looking at these brands that used to sort of have, you know, very strictly menswear and women's wear in the same show. Now it's looking like this big crossover is happening between the two, where almost every outfit can sort of be reimagined for whatever gender it wants to be. And I think that that really opens up a space for so many people to start reimagining the way they think about fashion and they think about their own closets and how they want to shop for themselves.
You definitely help us do that every single week here. We always thank you for your time. Stylist and author Heather Neuberger, thanks for joining us. All things Fashion Week that we've covered in the last week. You can get more of Heather by just following her on Instagram at Heather Neuberger, and then make sure you pick up her book. Make sure you get this, How to Date Your Wardrobe.